Hey guys, it's Angie Lane with another episode of Midwest Modern Moments, bringing you all the things that make the Midwest great and the little moments, people, places here and there that to me make up the Midwest. And today I'm going to be talking to myself about black walnuts. And my whole life, I've never lived in a yard that didn't have a black walnut tree, and this might not be ubiquitous to the Midwest because when I looked it up, it looks like only half of Michigan and kind of a little bit like below Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, those states, we all have black walnuts. But Wisconsin and Minnesota are missing out on all the fun, and some of the more western states. But anyways, when I was growing up, they were kind of like, in what I think of them mostly as, is kind of a nuisance nut. You just always had to pick them up out of the yard before you mowed. So right about, if you don't know what they are, and I've never seen them, so there's two kinds of walnuts. There's the English walnut, which is what you get in the grocery store, and then there's black walnuts that are notoriously harder to crack into. In June, they're on the tree and they start out these green kind of golf ball size, and then in September they're about the size of a baseball and they fall to the ground and turn black and get all gross, and so there's an outer husk that comes off, and then inside that gross part is the nutshell. And you have to wear gloves when you pick them up because the black of them is really gross and it stains everything. So traditionally these guys were used, as food. They keep for a really long time, and you just have to have the patience to get into them. I personally do not, but I did have an aunt who used to put them in chocolate chip cookies, and so I have that nostalgic, and they taste different than English walnuts. There's a little bit of a funk to them that might take a little bit of getting used to if you're not used to it, because that's the other thing about black walnuts is they smell. When you pick them up off the ground, they are like rancid sock. It's weird. But it kind of makes sense when you learn a little bit more about black walnut trees, and around here it's kind of common knowledge, but the roots of them exude this chemical called juglone, not to be confused with Juggalo, the Insane Clown Posse fans, or Justina Blakeney's Jungalo, that beautiful botanical world she's created. Nope, juglone. And it is kind of a nature's weed killer, and so a lot of things won't grow under walnut trees, and they're pretty big. They have a really big shade canopy, so they kind of have their own personal, safeguard against trying to catch all the nutrients in the soil. But so other than picking them up in the olden days, and just using them purely as food, in terms of how black walnuts are a little bit, the wood from black walnut trees, walnut wood is beautiful, has a really tight grain, it's a darker wood, it's very pretty, and but now one of the coolest things that my friend Nate, you may remember him from the first episode of this when we talked about maple syrup, excuse me, that was the second episode. But anyways, Nate, they make a liqueur out of the green walnuts. So you harvest them in June and you do whatever you do to make alcohol. But there's this really cool distillery. This is out of Grand Rapids, and they do these small batches, and it's small batch because all the bottle numbers and everything are handwritten on them. And this stuff is so good. It's kind of like kind of all your nut liqueurs, but not as sweet. It's got a really mellow it's just a really great taste, and it blows my mind that this is the taste that comes out of these stinky little nuisance nuts, but it is. And so that is what I'm enjoying today while I talk to myself about walnuts. One story that I thought of in terms of people who maybe haven't grown up around walnuts, and this makes me laugh, but my ex-mother-in-law found one, and so when they fall to the ground they're green and they're about the size of a baseball or an apple, right? And so she's walking along and is like, oh, what's this? And picks it up thinking, I mean, I don't know anybody who picks up an apple off the ground and just eats it either, but she picked it up and like took a bite out of it and was like, this apple tastes weird. And if you've ever seen or felt a black walnut, like there's just, I don't know, it's just so funny that she did that, because that's insane. No one would ever mistake one for an apple or even be tempted to pick it up and take a bite out of it. So that was my funny story for black walnuts. But the other cool thing, so besides the alcohol, the other cool thing that you can do with black walnuts is they make inks and dyes out of them, because they do have that substance that's so staining, which is also super cool. And so thinking about all the things to do possibly if we get ambitious this fall, because one tree drops probably at least 10 5-gallon buckets of walnuts. I mean, if you have a walnut tree, there's a ton of walnuts, and they do make mowing a pain, because you hit one and they fly out. They're like rocks. They also are probably the reason we have so many squirrels. The squirrels love them. I can hear a squirrel behind me right now gnawing on one of these nuts. Anyways, if you go to my blog post, I have a couple recipes for the nocino. That was the name of the alcohol. It's so good. And some little bit more information about black walnuts, and you can also see the map of the region where they grow. There's tons of how-tos on there about how to do all these things, and I am not going to go into that because I really don't have the patience for much of that kind of stuff. But I do think it's super cool that they're getting used and utilized, because I mean, they're just like, they're so plentiful and they just end up getting thrown away. And so I think it's a cool way to possibly bring them into, like, you know, modern times and find these alternate uses for them instead of them just being a nuisance nut. So I hope you have learned, I don't know, something new about walnuts, or that they're even remotely interesting if you have black walnuts. But yeah, look them up. And if you're, you know, crack them, kids like cracking them, you have to use a hammer, so heads up on that one. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy, and cheers.